Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your Bonheur Private Wines video. I'm your host, Julien Michael, and today is going to be a rather fun and hopefully interesting video. We are going to be talking about 7 champagne myths, 7 things most people commonly think are true about champagne sparkling wines, but that actually aren't these true at all. We're going to be talking about things like the size of the bubbles, that champagne is more for women, what foods champagne should be drunk with, that sort of incorrect ideas many people have about champagne. Let's go! My fellow wine-loving friends, Julian here. Before we get started with the video, there is something that you have to know about. This video was made possible by the Bonheur Private Wine Partnership, and the reason I work with them is not just because it's been called the most unique wine club in America, but because they truly love the wines that they choose for you. Founded by Will Bonheur, the partnership is a small group of wine lovers who have come together to import excellent small batch wines that might otherwise get completely overlooked by large importers. They get them. Right now you can get your hands on 3 rare extreme altitude red wines from Argentina, from some of the purest, highest vineyards in the entire world, way up in the Andes Mountains. No middlemen, no additive packed supermarket wines here, no inflated costs. Plus you'll get exclusive access to more wine education videos from me, just like the one you're about to watch, to make sure you become an educated wine connoisseur. So make sure to check out the link in the video description to see if you want to become partner in something truly special in the world of wine. But for now, back to your video. Okay, so we're starting with an easy one. Maybe you already knew about this. Although many people do believe champagne is a grape, well, because it appears on wine labels, like the names of grapes usually do, such as the Cabernets or the Chardonnays. But no, of course, champagne is not a grape. It's the name of a wine region in France, a beautiful wine region at that. Well, I guess many wine regions in France are absolutely beautiful, if you ask me, especially wine regions. But yes, Champagne is a really stunning wine region if you like vineyard landscapes, because there's quite a lot of them there. And the good thing is that it's only 1 hour, a short hour drive outside of Paris. That's quite a nice day trip idea for your next stay in France, isn't it? Anyways, Champagne wine is made in the region of Champagne. It was named after, obviously. And it's generally made from 2 of the most famous grapes in the world, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, that are blended together. Often with a bit of a less famous grape that is called Pinot Meunier, which is more of a local Champagne grape. No, don't serve your bottle of champagne ice cold or at fridge temperature. Of course, most of the time you will simply have your bottle of champagne sitting in the fridge for a few hours before serving. So this way it's nice and cold, and it obviously prevents your champagne from splashing around when you uncork it if it's nice and cold, and that's very true. It's just simply the most convenient way to do it. But know that serving your champagne at fridge temperature is not the ideal temperature to serve it for the complete enjoyment of its subtleties and nuances, especially if you're buying an expensive fine bottle of champagne. The ideal temperature is in fact around 45 to 50 degrees rather than the 35-40 degrees, which is the fridge temperature. If you can, practically just pull your bottle of champagne out of the fridge about 15 to 20 minutes before serving, and be simply gentle by handling the bottle so it doesn't overflow when you uncork it. It's as simple as that. And you will notice that you can perceive much more nuances. The wine will be much more open, much more talkative when you get to taste it. I'm not very sure where this one actually came from, but many people still believe that big bubbles is better, and maybe that's from a time when fizziness in wine wasn't very well controlled, very well crafted, and you needed to witness those big bubbles to make sure that you had a good sparkling wine. But today though, you do not want to see large bubbles in your glass of bubbly. The sparkling wines made using the traditional method, the one used in Champagne, with fermentation inside the very bottle you buy your wine into, and that's the best way to craft refined sparkling wines. Well, those wines have small, delicate bubbles. While wines made using carbonation, just like soda is made by injecting CO2 in the bottle, will have large, ugly bubbles. So small bubbles with a delicate mousse give smoothness and finesse to the texture and subsequently to your tasting experience. It's not quite like the smaller the bubbles, the better, but really, it's almost that. There might well be a whole lot of reasons why women prefer sparkling wines over more manly, big reds. For not staining their teeth with the tannins, for the lower alcohol content, maybe for more subtle flavors and the refreshing feel from the acidity that those wines give. The legend goes that Dom Pérignon, the Benedictine monk who invented sparkling wine at the end of the 17th century, said when he first discovered and tasted a sparkling wine, "Come quickly, I am tasting the stars." Well, fine sparkling wines are very refined and subtle wines indeed, yet with many layers of complexity to their taste. And appreciating them requires paying really close attention to the details that make the quality of the wine you are tasting, particularly the balance of the wine on your palate, which is a rather intangible sensation, rather like tasting the stars indeed. If you see wine tasting as a way to experience new flavors without the overwhelming effect on your senses that rich, powerful red wines in particular can have, then I don't see no reason why men too should explore and enjoy the joys of champagne. Sure enough, buying a bottle of champagne is not cheap, so it's probably not that you can have it every night of the week. That said, one does not have to wait for a large gathering, an important birthday, Thanksgiving or Christmas to have some and share some with people you appreciate. Champagne, and I'm repeating myself at this point, but champagne is a fine and rare, elegant wine. I personally find that one glass of it, because it's so complex and so refined, is very, very satisfying. Even just one glass, especially if you have it in a quiet environment, taking the time to smell and taste every nuance that it's got. And believe me, there's many of them. Things you can generally not do while you're cheering with many people at a noisy party. There's plenty of small celebrations, romantic dinners, or small milestones in life that can be acknowledged sharing a bottle of wine with your family and a few friends. Cheering with a glass of wine with your loved ones is personally one of the rare pleasures of life, of my life, that I enjoy. So why wouldn't you as well? In fact, I find that champagne goes extremely well with food, and not only the canapés, the appetizers or cakes. It's a very common misconception that champagne is to be enjoyed only before meal or after a meal. When I visited Champagne and toured Champagne, visiting wine growers, winemakers, hosted by champagne makers and brand people, every meal would be served with champagne, from entree to dessert. Just a little bit of champagne with every dish, and that was perfectly fine. It's how they enjoy champagne over there in the region of Champagne, and it absolutely works. Champagne is subtle, and most of the time it's dry and acidic, so it always respects the food you're having it with. It's never overpowering your food, but rather adding sophisticated and zingy dimensions to it, a bit like a squeeze of lemon on a dish, but obviously with more layers and flavors, because this is more complex than just a squeeze of lemon. Go with mildly flavored dishes though, not your rich, spicy ones that are just going to destroy and overpower the champagne completely. So when you've had your little private celebration at home cheering with a glass of champagne, well, you can actually certainly have another glass of it with your dinner. Trust me, champagne and food pairing pretty much always works. And yes, ironically, we will finish this video by debunking this myth too. No, champagne is not necessarily the best sparkling wine you can buy. Of course, Champagne, the region of France, has arguably the best terroir, the best soil, the best climate to make extremely fine bubblies and extremely fine champagne sparkling wines. They have the oldest tradition for it. They have some of the best winemakers, some of the most skilled winemakers for it. Obviously, they have the greatest stocks of aged champagne maturing in their limestone underground cellars. Oh, by the way, did you know that there are right now more than 1 billion bottles of wines, of champagne wines, just like this one, that are hidden underground in the winery cellars right now in Champagne? More than 1 billion. It's just, anyways, yes, Champagne has all of its advantages over many other regions. So as standard, if you buy a bottle of champagne, it's always going to be a pretty high quality, something rather quite special. But there are many quality sparkling winemakers all around the world as well. You can name a few: the Franciacorta in Italy, the Cavas in Spain. English sparklings are pretty hot and good these days. Aussie sparklings, many California sparklings. You can find quality bubbles everywhere. French champagne is not automatically superior. At the end of the day, it's always the same conclusion when it comes to wine. What matters is what you enjoy the most and how you enjoy it too, how deep you can appreciate the experience. I'll leave it here for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Next week, with our next video, we will be continuing learning about champagne. We will look at a few fascinating facts about the history of champagne that not many people know about or realize about the history of champagne. Plenty of fascinating stories there, and I will give you a few keys to understand what you're buying when you're going to your favorite wine shop to buy a bottle of champagne, so you can navigate the world of champagne a little bit better after that. I will see you then next week to talk more about champagne. I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Au revoir. Cheers. Bye bye.